I want to start by saying that I am not someone who makes assumptions about people. I don't judge strangers. I don't assume the worst about someone just because they look a certain way or act a little differently than expected. I've lived in a city long enough to know that people do all kinds of things in public for all kinds of reasons, and most of the time, there's a perfectly ordinary explanation. I say this because I need you to understand that what I noticed about the man at Pump 3 wasn't paranoia. It wasn't me being jumpy or overly cautious. It was something specific, something deliberate, something that my instincts registered before my brain had time to catch up. It was a Thursday evening in late September, around 9 at night. I pulled into the gas station near my apartment after work. It was quiet. 2 other cars in the forecourt. A woman at Pump 1 already getting back into her car. And at Pump 3, a dark sedan with the engine off and the driver still sitting inside. I parked at Pump 2, got out, swiped my card and started pumping. I glanced over at the sedan once without really thinking about it. The driver was sitting completely still behind the wheel, not on his phone, not looking around, just sitting there, staring straight ahead through the windshield. I looked back at my own pump, watched the numbers count up. A minute passed, maybe 2. I glanced over again. He hadn't moved. Same position, same stillness, engine still off, not pumping gas, not doing anything, just sitting there behind the wheel of a car at a gas station forecourt at 9 at night. I told myself he was waiting for someone inside, resting after a long drive. Any number of reasonable explanations. I finished pumping, replaced the nozzle, got back in my car. As I pulled toward the exit, I had to drive past Pump 3. I kept my eyes forward. Normal, routine, nothing to see. But as I passed, I looked over automatically the way you do. He was looking directly at me, not at my car, not at the road, at me, through my passenger window. A flat, expressionless stare that lasted the 2 seconds it took me to pass him and pull out onto the road. I drove home, parked in my usual spot outside my building, went inside, made dinner, watched some TV. Completely normal evening, until 30 minutes later when I heard a car slow down outside. I went to the window and looked down at the street below. Dark sedan, parked directly across from my building, engine running, driver inside. I couldn't make out the face clearly from where I was standing, but I knew. I called the police. They arrived 10 minutes later. By the time they got there, the car was gone. The officer took my statement, said they would increase patrols in the area. Standard response. Nothing I could really do without more information. I told myself it was over, tried to move on. 3 days later, I was at a completely different gas station on the other side of the city, a place I'd never been before. I was there because I had a meeting nearby and my tank was low. There was no routine to it, no pattern, no way for anyone to know I would be there. I pulled up to the pump, got out, started pumping, and heard an engine cut off at the pump directly behind me. I turned around slowly. Dark sedan. I didn't wait to see if he got out. I got back in my car immediately and drove directly to the nearest police station and walked inside and told them everything from the beginning. They reviewed the security footage from both gas stations. The same car appeared on both recordings. They ran the plates. Stolen. 6 months prior. They never found the driver. I still fill up regularly. I still drive past gas stations at night. But I pay at the pump now. I never go inside after dark. I never make eye contact with anyone. And I never go to the same station twice in a row. Not anymore. I want to be very clear about something before I tell this story. I am not a superstitious person. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in things that can't be explained through logic and evidence. I have told this story to 3 people in my life, and all 3 of them have suggested explanations: tiredness, stress, confusion about the route. I have considered all of those explanations seriously and genuinely. None of them account for what happened to my fuel gauge. It was a Tuesday night in November. I had been visiting my sister who lives 4 hours away, and I was driving back late. Later than I had planned because we had gotten talking and lost track of time. The fuel light came on about an hour into the drive home. I wasn't worried initially because I assumed there would be a station coming up within a few miles. There wasn't. I drove for 20 minutes with the fuel light on through complete darkness. No towns, no exits, no signs of anything on either side of the highway. Just road and black sky, and the growing anxiety that comes with a fuel light that won't go off. Then I saw the lights, set back from the road on the right-hand side. A small gas station, old-looking. One of those places that feels completely untouched by time. 2 pumps under a canopy with a light that flickered slightly. A small convenience store with warm light coming through the windows. I pulled in. I was the only car there. I got out and approached the nearest pump. It was an old model, the kind where you have to go inside and pay before the pump will activate. I grabbed my purse and walked to the store. A bell rang above the door when I pushed it open. The man behind the counter looked up. He was older, 60s at least, wearing a faded uniform shirt that had clearly been washed hundreds of times. He had a calm, unhurried manner about him. He smiled when he saw me come in. I told him I needed $40 on pump 1, please. He nodded, took my card, ran it through the machine, handed it back. Then he looked at me for a moment and said, "Long drive tonight?" I said yes, just heading home. Couple more hours to go. He nodded slowly. Then he said something that I have thought about every day since. He said, "You want to be careful past mile marker 47. There's been some trouble out there lately. Stay on the main road. Don't stop for anything, no matter what you see." I asked him what kind of trouble. He just shook his head, didn't elaborate, just repeated it. Don't stop for anything. I went back outside, pumped the gas, watched the numbers count up to $40 on the display, replaced the nozzle, got back in the car. I pulled back onto the highway and kept driving. About 15 minutes later, I passed mile marker 47. There was a car on the shoulder, hazard lights flashing, a figure standing next to it, waving their arms at passing traffic. I thought about what the attendant had said. I kept driving, didn't slow down, didn't look over, kept my eyes on the road and my hands on the wheel. When I got a phone signal back, I called my sister to check in, told her about the gas station, about the attendant, about mile marker 47. She went quiet immediately. Then she said, "What gas station? There's nothing on that stretch of road. I drive it every week. There are no gas stations for at least 40 miles in either direction. There's nothing out there at all." I pulled over, opened my GPS, searched the route. She was right. No gas stations, no businesses, nothing for miles. I looked at my fuel gauge. It was sitting in exactly the same position it had been when the fuel light first came on an hour earlier. I had watched $40 worth of gas go into the tank. I had seen the numbers on the pump display. I had heard the sound of the fuel going in, but the needle hadn't moved. I drove the remaining distance home on fumes that shouldn't have existed. and pulled into my driveway and sat in the dark for a long time before I could make myself go inside. I have driven that highway many times since, in the daytime, always with a full tank before I start. I have never seen a gas station on that stretch of road, and I have never passed mile marker 47 after dark again. I don't think I ever will. I work the night shift, have done for 6 years now. My shift ends at 2:30 in the morning, and I'm usually pulling into the gas station near my house by 2:45 to fill up before I go to bed. Same station every time. Same pump if it's available. Same routine, so ingrained that I barely think about it anymore. Most nights, the forecourt is empty or close to it. Occasionally, another night shift worker heading home. Sometimes, a delivery truck passing through. It's quiet and uneventful, and exactly the kind of stop you make on autopilot after a long shift when all you want is to get home and sleep. I pulled in on a Wednesday morning in January, 2:47 a.m. There was one other car in the forecourt, parked at the far pump, engine off. Nobody visible outside it. I assumed the driver was inside the store. I got out, swiped my card, started pumping, checked my phone while I waited like I always do. That was when I heard it, crying, coming from the direction of the other car. Not loud, soft and muffled, like someone who was trying very hard not to be heard. A woman's voice doing everything it could to stay quiet and failing just slightly. I looked over. The car windows were fogged, which was why I hadn't noticed anyone inside when I pulled in. But now, looking more carefully, I could make out a shape in the back seat. Someone sitting in the back seat of a car at a gas station at 2:47 in the morning, crying as quietly as they possibly could. I finished pumping, started walking toward the store entrance. My route took me past the car. As I got closer, I slowed down and looked at the rear window. A young woman, mid-20s maybe, hunched forward with her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. I stopped walking. I knocked on the window gently. She looked up immediately. The moment she saw me, her expression changed. Not relief, not gratitude, pure terror. Like me being there was the worst possible thing that could have happened. She shook her head, rapidly, urgently. I leaned slightly closer, trying to understand. She pressed closer to the window and mouthed something slowly, so I could read her lips. "Don't help me." I straightened up, looked around the forecourt, still empty, looked at the store window. One person visible at the counter inside. I looked back at the woman in the car. She was still watching me, still shaking her head. Her eyes kept moving to something behind me. I turned around. A man was pushing through the store door. Large, heavy jacket, looking down at his phone as he walked out. He hadn't seen me yet. He walked directly to the driver's side of the car, got in, started the engine without looking around, pulled forward toward the exit. As the car reached the exit, the woman in the back seat turned around and looked at me through the rear window. She mouthed one word, "Help." I had the plates in my memory before the car turned onto the road. I was on the phone with 911 before their taillights disappeared. I gave them everything, the plates, the make and model, the direction they turned, everything I had seen and heard. Police units searched the area for the next hour. They found the car abandoned in a parking lot 4 miles away. Both occupants were gone. The plates were stolen. A detective called me the following morning. I gave a full description of both people. He said they were following up on several leads. I never heard back after that. I still stop at that same gas station every morning at 2:47 after my shift. Same pump if it's free. Same routine. But I check every car in that forecourt before I start pumping now. Every single one. Because she looked at me through that rear window and asked for help with one word. And I still don't know if anyone ever gave it to her.